Eat like a dog. My son said that to me. In the house I paid for with my life savings. He laughed. They thought the old man was broken. They were about to find out this old contractor still knew how to tear things down. If you're listening to this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. It helps more than you know. Let me back up and tell you how a man can build his own prison, brick by painful brick. It started 2 years ago, with a dream, my son's dream, but my nightmare. Mark came to me. My son, he was glowing with ambition, his eyes bright with the promise of success. He was starting his own real estate development firm. He spread glossy brochures on my kitchen table. Skyscrapers, luxury condos, dollar signs everywhere. It's a sure thing, Dad, he'd said, his voice smooth and confident, the voice of a salesman. I just need the capital to get started. The banks are tight right now, but once they see what I can do, the sky's the limit. He looked at me, his expression earnest. This is my chance, Dad. Our chance. He made it sound like a legacy, but I should have known legacies aren't built on borrowed money. I was retired, living quietly. Eleanor and I had saved everything. We pinched pennies. We skipped vacations. We drove old cars. All so we could retire in comfort. Also our children would have a head start. I loved my son. I wanted him to succeed. I wanted him to have the life Eleanor and I had dreamed of for him. I convinced myself this was what she would have wanted. I convinced myself I was doing the right thing. I was a fool. So, I did the unthinkable. I liquidated my retirement accounts. Decades of savings, gone in a keystroke. But it wasn't enough. Mark needed more. So I sold our bungalow, the home where Mark and Sarah took their first steps, the repository of all our memories. The walls still echoed with Eleanor's laughter. I sold it all. I gave it all to Mark. Nearly $1 million. It was meant to be the foundation of his empire, the down payment for this very fortress. In return, he made a promise, a sacred vow. He promised I would always be taken care of. He promised I would have the large guest suite on the first floor. My knees were getting worse. Stairs were hard. You deserve to live in comfort, Dad, he had said, clapping me on the back. His hand felt heavy. You earned it. That promise felt solid, real. I believed him. I trusted him. My son, my blood. That promise lasted exactly 1 month. The betrayal didn't happen all at once. It was a slow erosion, a chipping away at my dignity. It started with the guest suite. Jennifer, Mark's wife, decided it was the perfect space for her home office, her social planning headquarters. I remember the day she moved me out. She didn't ask. She told me. Boxes appeared outside the suite door. My boxes packed with my clothes, my books, my photos of Eleanor. I stood there, confused. Jennifer breezed past me, talking loudly on her phone. Thomas, your new room is upstairs, she said, not even breaking stride. The 3rd floor. The view is much better. Upstairs? I asked, my voice weak. But my knees. A little exercise will do you good, she snapped. She disappeared into the suite. My suite. I looked at the stairs. They seemed to stretch forever. My knees throbbed, just looking at them. I swallowed hard. The humiliation burned, but I didn't fight. Family adjusts, I told myself. The 3rd floor was an attic, converted into a small, cramped room. The ceiling slanted sharply. I hit my head every time I stood up too fast. The stairs hurt. Every step was a reminder of the promise he broke. But that wasn't the worst part. Then came the dinner parties. I wasn't invited. My presence was distracting. I remember one night I came downstairs for a glass of water. The house was filled with music and laughter. I saw Mark holding court, Jennifer by his side. Jennifer saw me lingering near the doorway. Her smile faded, replaced by a look of pure annoyance. She marched over to me. Thomas, what are you doing down here? She hissed. I just needed some water, I mumbled. The guests are uncomfortable, she said. Your stories about the old contracting days, they don't exactly fit the image we're trying to project. The image, always the image. I was the old hammer they used to build the house. Now they wanted me back in the toolbox. Hidden away, out of sight, out of mind. I went back upstairs. I sat in the dark, listening to the sounds of the life I had paid for, a life I was no longer allowed to be a part of. Eventually, they moved me out entirely. Mark showed up one Tuesday morning. He wouldn't look me in the eye. Dad, we found a place for you, he said. staring at his expensive shoes. It's a nice little apartment, closer to the city. Why, Mark? I asked. My voice was quiet, broken. Jennifer needs the space, Dad. And frankly, it's easier this way. You have your independence. Independence, that's what he called abandonment. The apartment wasn't nice. It was small, drab. The walls were thin. I could hear the neighbors arguing. I could hear the traffic roaring past. It smelled like stale smoke and regret. My new home, a prison cell disguised as independence. I met my neighbor the first day, Mrs. Petrov, an older woman, gray hair pulled back tight. She watched me carry my boxes. Her eyes held a deep, familiar sadness. She didn't say hello. She just stared. A few days later, I was struggling with the lock. The key wouldn't turn. Frustration gnawed at me. Mrs. Petrov shuffled over. They take everything, don't they? She whispered. Her voice was raspy. I looked at her, surprised. My son took my house too, she said. He put me here, said it was temporary. She let out a dry chuckle. It's been 5 years. She turned and went back inside. Her words chilled me to the bone. I realized I wasn't just alone. I was one of many, discarded, forgotten. My daughter Sarah saw it clearly. She was an ER nurse. She saw the ugly side of life every day. She had no patience for pretense. They are using you, Dad, she told me last week. We were on our weekly phone call. Her voice was tight with anger. They took everything and gave you nothing. It's disgusting. He's just busy, Sarah, I defended him. I always defended him. Building a business is hard. Building a business or erasing his past, she shot back. He's ashamed of you, Dad. Wake up. Her words stung. Because deep down I knew she was right. Back to Thanksgiving. I stood on the steps of the fortress. The wind whipped around me. I stared at the massive oak door. I rang the doorbell. A loud symphonic chime echoed inside. Expensive. I waited. Through the glass I saw shadows moving. Laughter spilled out. High-pitched, fake, the sound of glass breaking. I rang the bell again. Still nothing. Were they ignoring me? The cold was seeping into my bones. Finally, the door swung open. It wasn't Mark. It was Jennifer. She stood there, draped in a shimmering gold dress. It probably cost more than my monthly pension. Her makeup was flawless. Her smile was tight, brittle. Thomas, she said. My name sounded like an accusation on her lips. You're finally here. You're late. No, hello. No happy Thanksgiving. Just blame. The traffic was heavy, I mumbled, stepping inside. The air was cold, sterile. It smelled like expensive perfume and something metallic. Money. Happy Thanksgiving, Jennifer. I held out the pie. Eleanor's legacy. She stared at the aluminum foil like it was toxic waste. Her eyes narrowed. The silence stretched. I felt a bead of sweat trickle down my neck. The bright light of the foyer felt like an interrogation lamp. What is that? She demanded. Her voice sharp. Pecan pie. Eleanor's recipe. Mark always loved it. Jennifer sighed. A long suffering sound. Thomas, I told you we have a professional caterer. They prepared a deconstructed pumpkin mousse. We don't need this rustic contribution. Rustic. She meant cheap? Unwanted. I swallowed hard. The lump in my throat wouldn't go down. I wanted to turn around and leave, but I couldn't. Not yet. She took it gingerly, holding it with 2 fingers, like it was contaminated. She placed it on a console table near the door, next to the umbrellas. Discarded. It would never make it to the kitchen. My heart sank. Eleanor's memory dismissed like garbage. Wipe your feet, she added. Her eyes swept over my worn boots. They were clean. I had polished them, but they were work boots, not Italian leather. We just had the marble floors polished. Marble floors, cold and hard, just like her, paid for with my retirement. I wiped my boots carefully. The foyer was vast, bright and cold. It was a showroom, not a home. The house was packed, people in suits and elegant dresses. Champagne glasses everywhere. It was a networking event disguised as a holiday. I recognized almost no one. These were Mark's new friends, the wealthy elite. Then I didn't belong. I looked for Mark. He was across the room, near a massive, modern fireplace with a strange blue flame, fake like everything else. He looked sharp, successful. His teeth were too white. He was talking animatedly to a tall man with silver hair. I recognized the man, David Chen. I'd seen him in the business news. A major investor, the man Mark was desperate to impress. Chen was observing the room, his expression unreadable. He looked like a shark, calm on the surface, but deadly underneath. Mark saw me, our eyes met, for a second. There was no warmth, no recognition, just a flicker of annoyance. Then he turned back to Chen, dismissing me. He didn't even wave. The familiar ache settled in my chest. I was the embarrassing secret, the old man in the cheap coat. The reminder of the sacrifice they wanted to forget. I drifted toward the kitchen, hoping for quiet. The kitchen was chaotic, caterers in white jackets rushing around, tiny appetizers I couldn't pronounce, foam and sprigs of green. It didn't smell like Thanksgiving. It smelled like stress and pretension. I saw a small girl sitting alone at a breakfast nook, away from the chaos. Emily, my granddaughter. She was 7. She had Eleanor's bright eyes, and a quiet disposition that didn't fit this loud house. She was the only real thing here. "Emily, sweetheart," I whispered, sliding into the booth. Her face lit up, a genuine smile. "Grandpa," she threw her arms around me. The warmth of her small body was a balm to my soul, the only affection I had felt in months. "How are you doing, Pumpkin?" "I'm bored," she whispered. "Mommy said I have to stay here until dinner. I'm not allowed to bother the guests. She said I might spill something." A child banished to the kitchen on Thanksgiving. Jennifer's cruelty knew no bounds. "Well, you can bother me any time." I reached into my pocket. I pulled out a small wooden bird, a robin, sanded smooth, painted bright red. I used to carve them for Eleanor. A tradition, a symbol of love. Her eyes widened. "It's beautiful. It looks just like the ones you made for Grandma." She reached for it, but a shadow fell over us. Before Emily could take it, the overwhelming scent of Jennifer's perfume choked the air. A hand snatched the bird from mine. Fast. Aggressive, Jennifer stood over us, her eyes blazing. "What is this junk?" she demanded. She turned the bird over in her manicured hands. Her nose wrinkled in disgust. "It's a gift for Emily," I said. I tried to keep my voice steady. "We don't need more clutter, Thomas. She has expensive, educational toys, not dusty old wood carvings." She tossed the bird onto the stainless steel counter. It landed near the sink, next to a pile of vegetable peels, like trash. My gift, my tradition, thrown away. My heart felt like it was cracking. Emily started to cry, silent tears. She knew what that bird meant. "Hush, Emily," Jennifer snapped. "Don't make a scene. Go back to your tablet." She turned to me. "And Thomas, the caterers need this space. Go mingle." She shooed me out of the kitchen, like an animal. I looked back at the little wooden bird, discarded. I retreated to the living room. I found a spot near the wall, behind a large, ugly sculpture that looked like twisted metal, a reflection of the twisted reality I was living. People brushed past me. Conversations about stocks, investments, vacation homes in Tuscany, the language of wealth, a language I no longer spoke. I saw David Chen talking to Mark again, but someone else was with them now, a shorter man, balding, familiar. It took me a moment. Then I recognized him, Mr. Harrison, my estate lawyer, the one who handled all the paperwork when I gave Mark the money. Why was Harrison here? A sudden chill washed over me. Unrelated, the cold air conditioning. Harrison was a decent man. He had looked deeply uncomfortable when we signed the papers 2 years ago. He warned me. He advised me. I remembered his words. "Protect yourself, Thomas. Always protect yourself." He looked even more uncomfortable now. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. A few minutes later, Sarah arrived. She looked exhausted, still wearing her scrubs under her coat. Her eyes softened when she saw me hiding behind the sculpture. "Dad," she hugged me tight. Ignoring the curious glances of the guests, I came as soon as my shift ended. "How are you holding up? You look pale." "I'm fine, honey," I lied. The pain in my chest was getting sharper, a physical manifestation of my broken heart. She looked around the room, her expression hardened. It's grotesque, isn't it? All this excess. Knowing where it came from makes me sick. She spotted Mark. Have you talked to him? Not yet. He's busy. Busy pretending he earned all this, Sarah muttered. She took my arm, pulled me further into the corner. Her eyes were blazing with fury, a fury I rarely saw in my kind-hearted daughter. Dad, I have to tell you something, she said. Her voice was low, trembling with anger. I wasn't going to ruin Thanksgiving, but seeing this, I can't keep quiet. What is it, Sarah? Dread pooled in my stomach. I remembered the brochures I saw on the counter during my last visit. Retirement homes. I thought I was imagining things. I overheard Jennifer on the phone yesterday, she said. I called the house line. She must have picked it up without realizing I was already on the other extension. I waited. The silence stretched. I knew this was going to be devastating. They are looking at retirement homes, Dad. I closed my eyes. I had suspected it, but hearing it out loud, it felt like a punch to the gut. But the real betrayal was still waiting in the shadows. They found one, Sarah continued. Her voice broke. The cheap one, the state-run facility near the highway. I knew the one. Mrs. Petrov mentioned it. She called it the dungeon, the one that takes your pension and leaves you with nothing. Sarah whispered, tears streaming down her face. The one that smells like disinfectant and despair. My blood ran cold. Not just a retirement home, a prison sentence. They are planning to move you there right after the holidays, Sarah said. Jennifer said, and I quote, we need the old man gone before the February Investors Gala. He's a liability. A liability. The confirmation of my deepest fear hit me hard. They weren't just ashamed of me. They weren't just ungrateful. They wanted to get rid of me. Gone. Hidden away. Discarded like the wooden bird. So they could enjoy their lavish life without the inconvenient reminder of who paid for it. If this story is keeping you hooked, don't forget to subscribe. It means the world. The betrayal was staggering. Suffocating. I had endured the loss of my home. The loneliness. The cold shoulders. The insults. I told myself they were just busy, ambitious. That they still loved me deep down. I was wrong. So wrong. This was the final nail in the coffin. This was war. The pain in my chest sharpened. But the fog of humiliation cleared, replaced by a cold, sharp clarity. I looked at Mark, laughing with his guests, basking in the glow of his success. My son, a monster I had created, and a monster I would destroy. The small bell rang, clear and melodic. Dinner is served, Jennifer announced. Her voice bright and artificial. The crowd migrated toward the dining room. The final act was about to begin. Sarah took my arm, squeezing it gently. Whatever happens, Dad, I'm with you. I nodded, unable to speak. My mind was racing. The storm was coming. The dining room was a spectacle. A long, mahogany table. Fine china, silver cutlery, crystal glasses sparkled under the massive chandelier. It looked beautiful, but it didn't look like Thanksgiving. There was no warmth, no color, no mismatched chairs. It was a stage, and I was about to become the main attraction. We approached the table. There were name cards, elegant script on thick paper. I circled the table looking for my name. Sarah found hers, near the middle. I kept looking. Mark was at the head of the table, Jennifer at the other end. Mr. Harrison was seated near Mark. He looked like he wanted to disappear. David Chen was watching me, his eyes curious. I reached the end of the table. Every seat was accounted for. My name wasn't there. Confusion turned into a sickening realization. They had planned this. This was the final humiliation before they shipped me off. A public execution. Mark, I said. My voice was quiet, but clear. The conversation lulled. The chatter died down instantly. Every eye in the room turned to me. The silence was heavy, thick. I felt my face flush with heat. Mark looked up, annoyed. Dad, what is it? I don't see my seat, he sighed. Dad, the table is full. We had a few last-minute RSVPs. Some important investors. He gestured vaguely around the room. We simply overestimated the space. Lies. He always fidgeted when he lied. He was fidgeting now. My heart pounded in my chest. The audacity. The disrespect. I wasn't going to let this slide. Not this time. Where is he supposed to eat? Sarah demanded. Her voice was sharp, cutting through the silence. He is our father. It's Thanksgiving. Jennifer glided over to us, her heels clicking sharply on the marble floor. The sound of a firing squad. I don't know, Sarah. Stop being so dramatic, Jennifer snapped. Her voice dripped with disdain. This is a very important dinner for Mark's career. We can't just squeeze in extra chairs and ruin the aesthetic. She looked me up and down. My old coat. My worn boots. The aesthetic. I was ruining the view. There's a small table in the kitchen, she said curtly. He can eat with the staff. The kitchen, away from the family. Like a servant. In the house I paid for. I am not eating in the kitchen, I said. My voice was low, steady. I felt strength returning to me. The strength of a man who has built foundations strong enough to withstand any storm. Don't make a scene, Thomas, Jennifer hissed, her eyes wide with panic. You're embarrassing us in front of our guests. Mark finally stood up, a forced smile plastered on his face. Everyone, please take your seats. The food is getting cold. He turned to me. His eyes were cold, hard. Dad, just cooperate. It's one night. Don't ruin this for me. We can talk about this later. Ruin it by wanting a seat at the table? I couldn't believe this was my son, the boy I taught to use a hammer, the boy I loved. Just sit where she told you, he snapped. Sharp, final. He turned away, dismissing me again. I stood there, paralyzed for a moment. The room was silent, everyone watching. I saw David Chen staring at Mark with a look of pure disgust. The cracks were showing. Jennifer seemed to relish the moment. She saw the victory, the final submission of the old man. She saw the victory, the final submission of the old man. She walked away. I thought it was over. I was wrong. She returned a moment later. But she wasn't carrying a chair. She held something in her hands, something bright blue. I couldn't quite see it. She approached me, a cruel smile playing on her lips. She held out a plate. It wasn't the fine china. It was a flimsy, bright blue plastic plate. The kind you use for a toddler, along with plastic cutlery. We didn't want you to break any of the good china, she said. A sweet, poisonous smile. I stared at the plastic plate. The insult was deliberate, calculated, meant to break me. My hands trembled. I clenched my fists. The rage was rising. But she wasn't done. A cruel idea sparked in her eyes. She wanted to complete the humiliation. She wanted to grind my face in the dirt. You know what? She said, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. The kitchen is too crowded anyway. The staff needs the space. She took the plastic plate from my hands. I thought maybe she was going to find me another spot. A corner, a stool. But instead, she walked over to the far corner of the room near the large glass doors leading to the patio. It was dark there, away from the warmth of the chandelier. There was a small decorative water bowl on the floor, for a dog they didn't even own, a prop in their perfect life. And then she did it. She bent down, slowly, deliberately, making sure everyone was watching. The room held its breath. I saw Sarah cover her mouth. She placed the blue plastic plate on the floor, right next to the dog bowl. Jennifer straightened up, smoothed her gold dress, looked at me with utter contempt. Old man, she said, sharp and lethal. There's no room for you, but you can eat here. Just don't make a mess on my floor. The room gasped. Sarah let out a choked sob. I saw Mr. Harrison staring at Jennifer in disbelief. David Chen looked horrified. The silence that followed was absolute, deafening. Time seemed to stop. I stared at the plate on the floor. The plastic plate, meant for a dog, meant for me. I felt something break inside me. The years of grief, the loneliness, the sacrifices, the life I had given up, the retirement home waiting for me. It all came rushing to the surface. A tidal wave of pain and rage. I looked at my son, Mark. He was staring at the floor, his face pale. He looked shocked by his wife's cruelty. For a moment, but he didn't move. He didn't defend me. He didn't intervene. He was complicit. He was a coward. The guests were horrified. The investors Mark was desperate to impress looked disgusted. Mark realized the situation was spinning out of control. The optics were terrible. He tried to salvage it, to minimize the cruelty, to save face. He tried to turn it into a joke. He let out a loud, nervous laugh. It echoed in the silent room. Hollow, ugly. He was trying to break the tension, but he only made it worse. "Look," he said, pointing at the plate. "It's like old times, Dad, roughing it on the job site." He looked at me. The coldness in his eyes was terrifying. He leaned back in his chair, swirled the wine in his glass. "Go on, eat like a dog." His words hung in the air. Heavy, final. The betrayal was complete. My own son. My ears rang. For a second I forgot how to breathe. This wasn't my son. This was a monster. Sarah was moving toward Mark, her face contorted in rage, ready to attack him. I held up my hand, stopping her. "No, Sarah," I said. My voice was surprisingly calm. The anger was gone, replaced by a cold, clear certainty. A sense of purpose I hadn't felt since Eleanor died. I looked at him, really looked at him. I didn't recognize him. This was a stranger, corrupted by greed, a monster wearing my son's face. I slowly straightened my back. My joints cracked. Loud in the silence, I felt a strange sense of power wash over me. They thought I was weak, powerless, a foolish old man who had handed over his life savings without protection, blinded by love. They were wrong. I remembered the conversation with Mr. Harrison 2 years ago, when I decided to give Mark the money. "Are you sure you want to structure it this way, Thomas?" Harrison had asked, concerned. "A revocable living trust gives you control." "Yes, it protects the assets. But if you ever have to use the revocation clause against your own son, it will be devastating." "I hope I never have to, Harrison," I had replied. But Eleanor always told me to plan for the worst and hope for the best. I will not be left destitute. I will not be discarded. I had planned for this very moment. I had hoped it would never come. But it had. I looked around the room at the shocked faces. The expensive decorations, the massive house, built on my sacrifice. I looked at Jennifer, smug, though a flicker of uncertainty crossed her eyes, as I stood tall. I looked at Mark, his forced smile fading, replaced by confusion. The first hint of fear. I took a deep breath, and then I spoke 4 words. 4 words that changed everything. 4 words that destroyed their world. The trust is revoked. The silence deepened. It was the sound of a world crumbling. No one understood, except for 3 people. Mark, Jennifer, and Mr. Harrison. Mark stared at me, his mouth open. His face, moments ago so arrogant, was now a mask of disbelief. Terror. What trust? He stammered. "What are you talking about, Dad? That's not funny." He laughed again. That nervous, hollow laugh. But this time, it died in his throat. "It's not a joke, Mark," I said, my voice steady, strong. I had never felt so powerful. Jennifer rushed forward, her face contorted in rage. "What are you doing? Stop this nonsense. You signed everything over to us. This is our house, our company." She was like a cornered animal, hissing and spitting. "No, Jennifer," I said, looking directly into her eyes. "You own nothing." Mr. Harrison stood up. Adjusting his suit jacket, he walked over to stand next to me, his presence lending an air of official finality. He was no longer a guest. He was my lawyer. "Thomas is correct," Harrison announced, his voice clear, professional, addressing the room like a courtroom. "When Thomas provided the capital for Mark's business and the purchase of this house," Harrison continued, "the funds were not a gift. They were assets placed into the Eleanor Jenkins Memorial Revocable Living Trust." The realization hit Mark like a physical blow. He stumbled back, knocking over his wine glass. Red liquid spread across the white tablecloth, like blood. "No, No, that's not possible, Mark whispered. We signed papers. We own the company. We own the house. We are the trustees. He was grasping at straws. Desperate. You were named as the successor trustees, Mark, Harrison corrected him, coldly, and the managing partners of the business assets. But Thomas remained the grantor, the sole primary trustee with the power of revocation. Harrison paused for effect. He retained full ownership and absolute control of all assets. They never owned anything. They were just borrowing it. I let you use them, Mark, I said, my voice filling the room. I let you live in this house. I let you run the business, because I trusted you. I loved you. I wanted you to succeed. I paused, looking at the plastic plate on the floor, but I protected myself, just in case. I looked at Jennifer. Her face was rapidly draining of color. She looked like a ghost. Just in case your ambition outweighed your humanity, I finished. Jennifer started screaming, high-pitched, hysterical, the sound of pure panic. You liar! You manipulative old man! You tricked us! You can't do this to us! We built this empire! You built nothing! I roared, the fury finally breaking free, resonating in the vast cold room. The sound of my voice shocked even me. You built a house of cards on my foundation. And you did it with my money, my sweat, my life. The secret was out now. And then you decided to throw me away, to put me in a state home, while you feasted on my sacrifice. The guests gasped. The truth was ugly, exposed for everyone to see. I turned to Harrison. When did the revocation papers go through? This morning at 9 a.m., Thomas. Harrison replied, as you instructed when you called me last week after your conversation with Sarah. I had known their plan, and I acted before they could strike the final blow. The room erupted in chaos. Guests started murmuring, grabbing their coats, eager to escape the unfolding drama. The train wreck they couldn't look away from. David Chin, the main investor, walked over to Mark's chair. He looked down at Mark like he was something disgusting he had found on the bottom of his shoe. Our deal is off, Chen said, his voice dripping with contempt. I don't do business with people who treat their family like garbage, and I certainly don't do business with frauds. He walked out, followed by the rest of the guests. Within minutes, the dining room was empty. The fortress was silent, except for the family and the lawyer. What does this mean? Mark whispered, his voice trembling, his world collapsing around him. He looked small, broken. It means, I said, my voice cold, final, that everything reverts back to me immediately. This house, the business, the bank accounts, the cars in the garage, everything. Mark rushed towards me, his face red with desperate fury. You will cancel that revocation. You will sign everything over to me right now. You owe me. He grabbed my arm, his grip tight. He was trying to intimidate me, to bully me, like he had done for the past 2 years. I didn't flinch. I looked at his hand, then at his eyes. Let go of me, Mark. You have no power here. My voice was steel. You are trespassing in my house. He dropped his arm, the reality crashing down on him. He was helpless, ruined. He had nothing. Jennifer's facade crumbled. The sophisticated socialite was gone, replaced by a desperate woman facing the loss of everything she valued. Her status, her money, her image. But where will we live? She cried, tears streaming down her face, ruining her perfect makeup. What about our things? Our reputation? We have nothing. We have debts. They had debts. Of course they did. They lived a lifestyle far beyond their means, relying on assets they thought they owned. You should have thought of that before you decided to discard me, I said. I felt nothing when I looked at them. Just emptiness. The love I had for my son was gone, replaced by a cold indifference. I walked over to the blue plastic plate still sitting on the floor. I picked it up. You have 24 hours to vacate the premises, I said. I handed the plate to Jennifer. She flinched, as if I had struck her. If you are not gone by tomorrow night, I will have the sheriff remove you. Happy Thanksgiving, I said, and turned away. I walked to the kitchen. I picked up the wooden bird Jennifer had discarded near the sink. I wiped it clean. I looked at Emily. She was standing with Sarah, watching the scene with wide, tear-filled eyes. She looked terrified. This was her home, her parents. I walked over to her and knelt down. My knees protested. I handed her the bird. "It's yours, Emily," I said softly. She took it, clutching it tightly, like a lifeline. "Grandpa," she whispered, "I don't want to stay here. They are mean." My heart ached. She was so young, innocent. She didn't deserve this toxic environment. She didn't deserve parents like Mark and Jennifer. "Do you want to come with Grandpa and Aunt Sarah?" I asked. She nodded vigorously, tears spilling over. She threw her arms around my neck. "Yes, please," she whispered. I stood up and took her hand, small and warm in mine. I looked at Mark and Jennifer one last time. Mark had fallen to his knees, sobbing, broken, the successful businessman reduced to a weeping child. Jennifer stood frozen, a statue of shock and despair, her gold dress shimmering in the candlelight. They were standing in the middle of their crumbling kingdom, surrounded by the remnants of their lavish party, the spilled wine, the empty chairs, the silence. I felt a pang of sadness. For the son I had lost, the boy who used to build things with me. But that boy was gone. He died long before this night. We walked out of the house. Sarah, Emily, Mr. Harrison, and I. The cold November air felt refreshing on my face. It felt like freedom. "Are you okay, Dad?" Sarah asked. I took a deep breath. I am now. The aftermath was swift, brutal. The revocation of the trust was ironclad. Mark and Jennifer lost everything. Their lavish lifestyle evaporated overnight. They had accumulated massive personal debt. They were forced into bankruptcy. Their reputation in the city was ruined. David Chen made sure of it. No one would do business with them. The next day, I returned to the house, with Mr. Harrison and a locksmith. They were still there, packing their things, their faces pale and drawn. They looked like ghosts haunting their own lives. They didn't speak to me. I didn't speak to them. Jennifer tried to keep some of the furniture, claiming it was hers. I didn't argue. I just called the sheriff. Officer Miller arrived, a stern-looking man with a no-nonsense attitude. He supervised the move, ensuring they didn't take anything that wasn't theirs. "This is my house," Jennifer shrieked at Officer Miller. "He stole it from us?" Officer Miller looked at her, unimpressed. "Ma'am, the documents say otherwise. You are trespassing. You need to leave, now." The humiliation was complete. They left with only their clothes and their shame. I sold the house. I couldn't live there. Every room was tainted with the memory of betrayal, the coldness, the cruelty. It sold quickly, for a vast sum. I sold the business too. I didn't want the stress, the ambition that had corrupted my son. I didn't need an empire. I just needed a home. The money felt cold, meaningless. But it provided security. It provided a future for Emily. I filed for custody of Emily. It was a fight. Mark and Jennifer tried to paint me as a manipulative old man. They tried to claim I was unfit to raise a child. We stood before Judge Alvarez, a sharp woman with piercing eyes. She saw right through Mark and Jennifer's pleas, their desperation, their lies. Sarah and Harrison both testified about the emotional abuse at the Thanksgiving dinner, the plastic plate, the dog bowl, the cruelty. Judge Alvarez looked at Mark and Jennifer with disgust. "Parenting is a privilege, not a right," she said. "A privilege you have squandered with your greed and your cruelty." She granted me full custody. Emily was safe. She was mine. Mark and Jennifer eventually moved away, unable to face the shame. I heard Mark was working a construction job, manual labor. The irony was painful. I wondered if he ever thought about the foundation I laid for him. The foundation he squandered. The foundation he destroyed. I bought a new house. A comfortable bungalow, much like the one Eleanor and I had shared. It had a big backyard, a porch swing, and a workshop where I could carve my wooden birds. A place of peace. A place of healing. Sarah decided to move closer. She took a job at the local hospital, working fewer hours, spending more time helping me with Emily. The house was filled with laughter again. the smell of baking bread, the sound of Emily playing the piano, the warmth of a real family, a family built on love and respect, not greed and ambition. Life wasn't perfect. I was an old man raising a young child, but every day was filled with purpose, love. Every day was a gift. Sometimes I think about Mark. I wonder if he ever realized what he truly lost. Not the money, not the status, but the love of the people who mattered. I wonder if he ever felt remorse, but I don't dwell on it. I focus on the present, on the life we are building together, on the future we are creating for Emily. Thanksgiving came around again the next year. We celebrated it in our new home. The table was small, but it was full. Sarah, Emily, Mr. Harrison, who had become a close friend, and a few neighbors. Even Mrs. Petrov came. She brought her famous apple strudel. We had a turkey, stuffing, and Eleanor's pecan pie. We ate on mismatched china. We laughed loudly. We shared stories. Emily placed the wooden robin in the center of the table, right next to a colorful construction paper turkey she had made. "Happy Thanksgiving, Grandpa," she said, her eyes shining bright, reflecting the candlelight. "Happy Thanksgiving, sweetheart." I replied, my heart full. I looked around the small room, filled with warmth and love. Strength isn't about the size of your house, or the amount of money in your bank account. It's about the integrity in your heart, the love you share. It's about knowing your worth and demanding respect. I was no longer the old man eating scraps from the floor. I was a father, a grandfather, a survivor, and I was finally home. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe.